There's a certain kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. You wake up after 8 hours and still feel like someone pulled the plug halfway through the night. You sit in your chair and feel your bones sink deeper than they used to. Even the things you enjoy, your morning paper, a walk around the block, a phone call with a friend, feel just a little too far away. Not exhausting, just too much. Linda, 72, felt it first in the mornings. She'd open her eyes and lie there, not because she wanted to sleep longer, but because the idea of moving felt heavy. Her coffee didn't help like it used to. Neither did the vitamins or the naps. And the strangest part? She wasn't sick. Her checkups were fine. Her labs looked good, but the energy was gone, and no one could tell her why. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Thousands of people after 60 and 70 experience persistent low energy, even when they're doing all the right things. And the worst part? They often start blaming themselves. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I'm slowing down. Maybe this is just what aging feels like. But that's not the truth. The truth is, energy doesn't just disappear. It leaks, quietly, slowly, from the places we forget to notice. And most of the time, it can be restored, not with expensive programs or miracle supplements, but with small, gentle changes that support the body you have right now. Because your body remembers how to feel strong. It just needs your help finding its way back. In this video, we're going to talk about simple and affordable ways to restore your energy when you're feeling drained. Things that don't require gym memberships, complicated routines, or hundreds of dollars. Just easy, thoughtful practices rooted in how real people live, move, rest, and nourish themselves every day. And we'll start with something so basic, so often overlooked, it might surprise you. But for Linda, it made all the difference. Let's begin with the way you breathe. Linda sat in her armchair, hands resting on the blanket in her lap, staring out the window. She wasn't doing anything in particular, just sitting. But even in that stillness, she felt tired. Not sleepy, just low, like her body was on pause. And for a moment, she noticed something strange. She was barely breathing, not because she was tense or upset, but because her breath had gotten so shallow, so automatic, she hadn't even realized it. She placed one hand on her chest, the other on her belly. And when she took a slow, deep breath, in through the nose, down to the belly, it was like her whole system exhaled with her. Something let go. Here's something many people don't realize. As we age, our breathing patterns often become smaller, shallower, and less effective. It's not intentional. It just happens. We move less, sit more, slouch without noticing. And little by little, the lungs stop expanding the way they used to. The result? Less oxygen, slower circulation, a brain that gets less of the fuel it needs to stay sharp and alert, and a body that starts to feel heavier, not because it's weak, but because it's underfed with air. But here's the good news. You don't need to take a class or become a yogi to breathe better. You just need to pay attention and make space. Start in the morning. Before you even get out of bed, place one hand on your belly. Breathe in slowly for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Pause for 4. Repeat 3 or 4 times. That's it. Do the same anytime you feel your energy dip when you're reading, watching TV, or folding laundry. Let your breath go deeper. Slower, fuller, not forced, just present. Even 2 or 3 minutes of mindful breathing can increase oxygen saturation, lower cortisol, and bring back a sense of aliveness. Linda started doing it before her coffee. She didn't expect much, but within a week, she noticed her mornings felt clearer. She wasn't rushing to wake up with caffeine. Her thoughts came easier. Her steps felt lighter. It wasn't magic. It was just air and the body's quiet gratitude when we stop starving into the thing it needs most. Because before you reach for a pill or a product, ask yourself, have I even given my cells the oxygen they're asking for? Often, that one change is the start of everything else. Now, let's move to the next gentle source of energy. One that doesn't come from movement or breath, but from light itself. The kind your body craves more than you think. Harold always used to joke that he was solar-powered. In his younger years, he'd wake with the sunrise, have his coffee on the porch, and feel the energy pour in with the morning light. But lately, mornings had lost their color. He still woke up early, but instead of getting up, he'd sit in the dark kitchen, scrolling through his phone, waiting for the motivation to move. He couldn't remember the last time he felt truly awake before noon. One morning, as he sat in that dim room, something occurred to him. He hadn't actually stepped outside in the morning light in weeks. The yard was still there. The sun was still rising. But somehow, in the quiet shift of time, he'd lost his rhythm. And with it, his energy. Here's something most people don't realize. Your body doesn't just wake up because the clock says so. It wakes up because of light. Natural, full-spectrum light that enters your eyes and sends a signal to your brain. It's time to be alert. It's time to energize. And after 60 or 70, that signal becomes even more important because melatonin and cortisol rhythms begin to flatten. We feel groggier in the morning, more sluggish in the afternoon. And unless we deliberately tell the body it's morning, it just doesn't get the message. The simplest way to do that: step into the light. Open your curtains as soon as you wake up. Better yet, step outside, even for just 5 minutes. No sunglasses, no phone, just you and the sky. Let the light enter your eyes directly, not to stare at the sun, but to let that brightness hit your retina and reset your circadian clock. That one act does more than wake you up. It increases serotonin. It improves your mood. It helps you focus. And later, paradoxically, it helps you sleep better too. Harold gave it a try. It felt silly at first, just standing on his porch in a robe, looking up at nothing. But within a week, he noticed something. He was more alert during breakfast. He didn't need that second cup of coffee. And for the first time in months, he didn't feel like collapsing at 3 p.m. He didn't start running laps or drinking energy drinks. He just went outside. And that simple habit became his favorite part of the day. Because light is not just illumination. It's information, a message to your body. We're awake now. You can start. So before you look for what's wrong, ask yourself, have I given my body light today? Often, that answer alone explains the fog, the fatigue, the flatness. Now let's move to the next source of energy. Something even more overlooked than light. Something soft, restoring, and surprisingly powerful: stillness. Elaine had always thought of herself as a doer. She didn't like sitting still. Her hands needed to be moving, folding laundry, chopping vegetables, reorganizing drawers that didn't need reorganizing. Even after retirement, her days were filled with errands, volunteering, helping her kids, baking for the neighbors. She told herself that staying busy was the key to staying young. But lately, something had shifted. She was still doing all the same things, but each task left her a little more drained than the last. Her shoulders stayed tight. Her brain felt foggy by afternoon. And even though she was doing less than when she was 40, she felt more exhausted than ever. One day, her daughter asked, "When was the last time you just sat down and did nothing?" Elaine paused. Not for rest, not to nap, just nothing. She couldn't remember. Here's something no one teaches us. After 60, your energy isn't just about activity. It's about how much you let your nervous system reset. Your body isn't only tired because you did too much. Sometimes it's tired because you never truly stopped. And there's a difference between collapsing on the couch and conscious rest, between zoning out and truly recharging. When you move from one thing to the next without pause, your system stays on alert. Even fun things become background noise in a day with no rhythm. But when you create intentional stillness, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you give your brain and body a moment to exhale. Elaine started small. She set a timer, just 7 minutes in the late morning. She turned off the TV, left the laundry. She sat in her favorite chair with a soft blanket and closed her eyes. Not to sleep, just to be. The first few days, she felt fidgety. But by the end of the week, those few minutes became sacred. Her thoughts softened. Her shoulders relaxed. And she noticed she had more energy, not because she did less, but because she allowed more space between the doing. You don't need to meditate on a mountain or spend an hour in silence. Just pause, breathe, feel your body in the chair, listen to the quiet. Even 5 minutes of stillness, truly present, not distracted, can lower cortisol, improve heart rate, and restore your sense of control. The world will keep spinning, but you don't have to spin with it. And sometimes, the most radical act of energy restoration is simply telling your body, you don't have to do anything right now. Now let's talk about something that affects energy in a quieter, but just as powerful way. It's not about rest or breath or light. It's about what you feed your body and how little it sometimes gets of what it truly needs. Frank always thought he ate pretty well. Toast and jam for breakfast, a turkey sandwich for lunch, a warm dinner, sometimes pasta, sometimes meatloaf, maybe a cookie or two afterward. Nothing fancy, nothing extreme. But by mid-afternoon, he was always dragging. He'd sit in his chair with the TV on and feel like he was moving through molasses. His eyelids heavy, his thoughts slow, and no matter how much coffee he drank, it barely touched the fog. One afternoon, while waiting for a refill at the pharmacy, he overheard two women talking. One said, "Since I started adding more greens and protein at lunch, I don't even need a nap anymore." Frank raised an eyebrow. Greens? For lunch? That night, he went home and thought about it. Could food be stealing his energy and giving nothing back? Here's the truth most people aren't told after 60. Your body processes food differently than it used to. Digestion slows, nutrient absorption becomes less efficient, and blood sugar becomes more sensitive, meaning the same meals that felt comforting at 40 can leave you crashing at 70. It's not about eating less. It's about eating what actually fuels you. Foods high in refined carbs, white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, sweetened drinks give you a spike of energy that disappears fast, leaving you more tired than before. Heavier meals with too much fat slow down digestion and pull blood to the stomach, making your brain feel sleepy. But when you add foods rich in fiber, protein, and healthy fats, your body responds with steadier energy, better focus, and fewer crashes. Frank didn't become a health nut overnight, but he made a few simple swaps. He added a handful of spinach to his eggs in the morning. He swapped his white sandwich bread for whole grain. He started eating a small bowl of lentil soup before dinner instead of bread and butter. And instead of a cookie, he tried a few almonds or a square of dark chocolate. The difference was quiet, but real. He stopped needing a nap after lunch. His thinking felt clearer. And for the first time in a while, he didn't rely on coffee to get through the day. He simply didn't need it. It wasn't a diet. It was feeding his body what it had been asking for all along. Simple foods, nothing exotic, nothing expensive. Leafy greens like spinach and kale, lentils and beans, oats, berries, eggs, sweet potatoes, nuts and seeds, water. These foods are fuel, not filler. And the beauty of eating for energy is that it's not about restriction. It's about nourishment. So before you wonder why you feel drained, take a look at your plate. What's on it? Does it leave you energized or ready to lie down? Because often, the answer isn't in doing more. It's in feeding yourself better, with kindness, not control. Now, let's move to the final piece. It's not food or breath or sleep. It's something quieter, but maybe the most powerful source of energy of all. It's connection. Ruth hadn't noticed how quiet the house had become. After her husband passed, she filled her days with puzzles, a little TV, tending her garden. She had people around, neighbors waved, her daughter called once a week. But the days started to blend. She'd look up and realize she hadn't spoken out loud since breakfast. And her body? It felt slower, her steps smaller, her thoughts less focused. She wasn't sick, but something inside her felt off. Dulled, like someone had dimmed the lights in her spirit. What Ruth didn't know, and what many forget, is that energy isn't just physical. Sometimes, what we call low energy is really low connection. A kind of fatigue that builds when we go too long without laughter, eye contact, shared stories, or someone simply saying, "I hear you." We are wired for relationship, even the quietest souls, even the most independent people. And as we age, when our days slow and social circles shrink, we need connection more than ever, not out of loneliness, but because being seen fills us in ways food and sleep never can. The problem is, when you feel low on energy, you're less likely to reach out. You convince yourself no one wants to hear from you, or you don't want to be a bother, or you say, "They'll call if they need me." But here's the truth. They might be waiting for the same thing. Connection doesn't have to be deep or dramatic. It could be a text, a voice message, a short visit. It could be asking someone to join you on a walk, or starting your morning by writing a letter, even if you never send it. It's not about fixing loneliness. It's about keeping your heart open enough for someone to walk in. Ruth decided to make one small change. She called her neighbor Susan, not for anything urgent, just to ask how her garden was doing. That 5-minute call turned into 30. Then, a week later, they had tea on the porch. And soon after, they were meeting every Friday. Ruth's body didn't suddenly gain strength, but she felt lighter. She stood taller. She moved with more purpose. Not because her legs were stronger, but because her heart was. Because sometimes the energy we're missing isn't in our muscles. It's in our meaning. And that comes from being connected. Let's take a breath and look at everything we've uncovered. Energy isn't one thing. It's breath, light, rest, nourishment, connection. It's the quiet result of taking care of ourselves with presence instead of pressure. We don't need to do more. We need to do gently. And remember that the body knows how to feel alive. Sometimes it just needs a little help. So if you've been feeling low lately, try one small thing. Step into the sun. Take a deep breath. Say no to a heavy meal and yes to a light, steady one. Pause for 5 minutes. Call someone. Or simply speak to yourself with the kindness you've given to others for decades. If this video helped you see something differently, share it with someone who might need the same reminder. Leave a comment below. What brings you energy when you feel low? What helps you come back to yourself? And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for more gentle, powerful reminders that it's never too late to feel better, lighter, and more fully alive. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next one.